How to become rich? Well, we'd love to tell you how to become rich. The first step, though, is to make sure that you don't become poor. This could happen easily because the next 1 or 2 years bring extraordinary economic dangers. Only if you take the right actions now will you be in the position to make bold moves in the near future. 3 prominent experts correctly predicted the 2008 economic downturn. Today, they are warning about a new crisis on the horizon. Due to exploding debt, America is headed for a new financial disaster. The Eurozone will follow immediately thereafter, as the two economies are interlinked and Europe has a massive debt problem too. Listen to these warnings, prepare and thrive. First, we'll tell you a bit more about the people who are warning and the warnings themselves. Second, we'll tell you where not to expect advice. Third, we'll give you some ideas on what you can do. First, who is warning? As early as 2002, Peter Schiff was warning about the subprime bubble. We encourage you to check out the Peter Schiff Was Right videos on YouTube, they are quite entertaining. In 2010, Peter is warning about a new, even more serious crisis. The value of the US dollar is going to implode. That is the next big bubble to burst. The US dollar and US government bonds. It's coming to the United States and there's no escaping it. The next forecaster is Gerald Celente. Celente's accurate forecasts include the 1987 stock market crash, the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the 1997 Asian currency crash, and the recent subprime market meltdown. Today, his warnings are even more dire. He says that by 2012, the situation will be worse than the Great Depression. Last but not least, Nassim Taleb. In his 2007 bestseller book, Black Swan, Nassim Taleb warned that Fannie Mae was sitting on a barrel of dynamite. He also claimed that large banks were too similar and too interlinked, and a failure of one would lead to a global banking crisis. Not surprisingly, he made a fortune out of the 2008 meltdown. Today, he's again skeptical about the future. We are facing an environment with a huge amount of debt. The next mistake is going to be to overprint, which is going to be the way out for them, which is why I fear hyperinflation. Now, let's look at those instances where you better not look for economic advice. Why is that important? Well, your time is limited, and you should not waste it on information that doesn't contain value or may even be misleading. Wrong information may lead to actions that will harm you financially. Let's look at the media first. 3 out of 4 Americans don't trust the media. Is it a surprise? No. A recent study revealed that between 2000 and 2007, the economic press completely failed to warn about the coming collapse. Out of over 1 million stories, the researchers identified only 700 that could be considered a warning. You had virtually no chance of knowing. Rather, you were more likely to hear stories about record profits and record growth. History repeats itself. Today, you mainly hear about economic recovery being underway. What you should really be hearing is news about a very fragile economy that could collapse the moment our creditors stop borrowing money to us. Consider yourself lucky to be watching this video, because most people will be caught by surprise. Next, the government and its institutions. The Federal Reserve of the United States knew as early as 2004 that there was a housing bubble building up, but did nothing. In fact, Alan Greenspan was successful in hiding the discussion from the public. His successor, Ben Bernanke, kept downplaying the problems in the housing and financial markets well into 2008. What about your financial advisor? No reliable numbers exist, but it is clear that the majority of financial advisors fail to protect their clients from suffering substantial losses in the recent crisis. 80% of investors plan to take away money from their advisor, and over 50% plan on leaving their advisor completely. It may be that your advisor is different, but has he told you about the coming currency and sovereign debt crisis? Did he explain how he plans to protect your investment? If he didn't, we'd like to give you a few tips. First, don't ignore this warning, and don't make the same mistake as the millions of people who lost their savings in the recent meltdown and wish somebody had told them. According to some voices, the current recession is a walk in the park compared to what is coming. But most importantly, you have little to lose if you prepare and a lot if you don't. Also, it is a well-known fact that during major crises, Wealth gets shifted away from one group of people to another. Don't let your wealth be shifted away from you, but instead focus on preserving and growing it. There are many things you can do. Here is just a very short list, but you should visit our website to get a full idea. So, 3 basic actions. First, get out and stay out of debt. It's still much easier to get out of debt now than it will be in the economic downturn ahead. Second, crisis-proof your savings. The US stock market will be hit the hardest, so you should sell your US stocks. The same applies to mutual funds heavily invested in the US. Make sure you own some gold and silver. In case of an economic crash, they appreciate strongly. If your IRA consists of a lot of stock market investments, consider moving all or some of them to a gold or silver IRA. Even if you are primarily invested in other assets, a little gold and silver can act as a cushion in your savings mix. Previously, bonds would do the job, but with hyperinflation possibly on the way, they can no longer be considered safe. Because the probability of multiple countries going bankrupt at the same time is very low, it may be a good idea to own foreign currencies. Inflation expert John Williams suggests holding the Canadian dollar, the Australian dollar, and the Swiss franc. Third, having a fixed income that covers your expenses is essential. If you are looking for a job, it may be a good idea to look at areas that are considered to be recession-proof. For instance, healthcare or the food industry. We'll list more ideas on our website. What was that about becoming rich? Well, all we can say is that the first step towards becoming rich one day is paying attention to warnings such as the ones presented here and acting intelligently on them. You are close to making that first step if you follow up. Finally, we'd like to ask you to spread the word. Even if 1 million people saw this video, that's only 0.5% out of the 600 million Americans and Europeans. The rest are going to be taken by surprise. Make sure your friends and family are not among them. Thank you.